Bet that ending part was the fatality, but I never found that song to be memorable, like most of the soundtrack. Welcome back to another chapter of Mortal Kombat Vengeance. Last time, we just went through Fujin's half of the chapter as he was recruiting distant combatants, with Sonya and Johnny rendezvousing at Shang Tsung's island with the other heroes. And later on, he actually found Hanzo Hasashi, who just got a note from Kenshi in Thai, in which some of his students translated for him to take care of Takeda, the baby, while Kenshi sets out to find Shang Tsung, who blinded him recently. And so, Hanzo took on the mission, and Fujin actually found Kuai Liang, Frost, and Smoke in Arctica, although Smoke was assigned to hold the fort, and together they rendezvoused to Shang Tsung's island, although Hanzo always had that dread that he would give in to his great self if he should face Quan Chi again. So, the combatants have been gathered, and it's off to Outworld. Alright, here we are. Continuation 4, Reconnections. The group of heroes arrived with the arena adjoining the celestial portal. A full moon shined down onto the central platform, giving the ornamental spot a sort of eerie hue. Even more so were the two floating heads aloft. Raiden described they belonged to the ancient Asian sages that patrolled the arcane way station and reminded the Octet this was the place where the Deadly Alliance entered Earthrealm. This is part of Outworld? Indeed it is, Psycho. The portal is a more convenient passage into the realm itself, though it is guarded by those chosen sages soaring here. They establish a trial in which the chosen must overcome in order to allow entry, by defeating a representation of their greatest enemy. So, this place is not only secretive, but also protected. Precisely, Kung Lao. I don't recognize neither of those sketchy heads. Neither do I. Me neither. The Shaolin didn't say anything, sharing their uncertainty. Raiden said that in order to cross over into other realms, in this case Outworld, that said trial must be accomplished. Johnny muttered he was surprised that Shang took the secretive route, instead of resorting to the nether ship, which seems a lot more comfortable by comparison. Sonya for once couldn't agree more. Can you blame them? Determined to secure Liu Kang's soul, and before his mentor had a chance to retaliate, Kung Lao took the call to arms in order to hone himself against the Deadly Alliance. Both gods admired his valor, and literally so he stepped onto the middle platform. The floating guardian heads halted and faced the oncoming Oriental, then conjured something. All the party saw was a spark and a flash of blinding light, as if it was from Raiden's usual lightning. A few moments later, Lao unshielded his eyes and was taken aback by a sudden appearance from beneath the floor. It was as if the intruder mimicked Lao's own teleportation. His face just dropped as he gazed onto his lethal opponent with dark Asian skin. Basically, it's Kung Lao's Revenant. Oh man. I wasn't sure what to come up with, so I just randomly picked his Revenant counterpart. Just like an MK11. Each one of his moves the doppelganger knew, from the tornado kick, teleport, hat throw, and retrieval. They appeared to be in a standoff, whether it be deflecting their hat tosses with the tornado kick, or countering with their teleport and swift moves. Even when either Lao managed to stick his hat onto a corner pillar and forced his enemy into it for a short while, things looked grim as each Lao attempted to outmaneuver his opponent or simply hit back more aggressively. Until... Kung Lao, lend me your soul, Liu Kang offered. It's about time to incinerate the undead copy. Without relent, Lao nodded his assent, only to be knocked down while his Shaolin brother swept into his body. The host just lay there on his back, allowing a brand new strategy. Great. All the enemy did was stare at his victim's body, which glowed and seeped in as Liu's emerald soul entered it. Lao's eyes opened with a bright amber again before he used his hands to flip onto his feet. Lao's body was Liu's own playground, and he even used the Forgotten Mantis fighting style. This actually outflanked the enemy. Even his ferocious bicycle kick made him falter. The tornado kick was engulfed in both a violent wind and flame. Even Lao's hat was encased in both elementals. All of the Revenant's counters had little effect, as Liu's pyrokinesis caused some searing pain. All undead abominations like you are vulnerable to the heat. Taste it! To end its suffering, Lao just kept on dicing his double with his hat until he was down. Finally, Lao's body skyrocketed in temperature as if he was enduring a fever, only it was voluntary. Their voices rose in unison as their hands conjured large embers in Lao's hands before they wound up and released the high fire onto the Revenant. They weren't done yet as Lao marched up to his copy, screeching like a banshee, before he was sliced through the middle by his razor-rimmed hat, causing a skinny orange sliver, which combusted till the corpse collapsed and melted into ashes. Haotou couldn't help but feel intrigued on the tepid display, as he has done the same thing while he was living corpse hell-bent on blind vengeance. Johnny beat everyone as he remarked, "Now that's what I call toasty. That's the way to deal with those oversaturating hordes." Just after a few seconds admiring the disintegration, Liu's soul emitted and returned to the golden dragon head. Nightwolf and Aiko watched Lao warily, knowing something was about to give. As if on cue, they rushed over when Lao's knees buckled and gravity took over, weighing him down. They were about to take an arm, but Lao murmured he was suffering from fatigue, as well as fever still. By touching his head, the shaman noticed he still had a high temperature. Lao was audible, but he can only slur. "Stand back!" Noticing the tenor in ran Sub-Zero. "He's suffering from delirium!" The Matoken observed what the cryomancer could do once he had the sacred dragon medallion. He immediately... hold on for 1 second, guys. I had to turn down the light so the clock wouldn't chime. Anyway, he is suffering from delirium, the cryomancer observed. He immediately got to work as he conjured rapidly cooling air when he laid a hand on Lao's forehead. "The brain must be stable, and it's the most sensitive when it controls the body's temperature. It must be cooled in order to reduce flare and calefaction." It didn't take long for Lao to have a shiver through his body who calmed him so much, as he gasped, feeling the frigid sensation course through him. Could have sworn his head was clearing and hadn't felt this weak since the after-effects of Shinnok's thrall. Even Frost pitched in as she offered Lao to drink some artica water from her indigo canister. Took it in several gulps before he made some deep inhales. It was undoubtedly the most refreshing thing since the crisp, pristine mountain H2O. Kwai confirmed that his fever had been broken, then he helped him get back on his shaky feet. Aiko laid a hand onto his heart and gave him her strength. Lao held it close as she did so, warming both of their hearts. "So what now, Raiden? The way to the celestial portal should be clear now. This portal is supported by the 4 pillars. You may stop beneath its rip, but remember, Fujin and I still do not have any power in Outworld. From here on in, you're all left with your own fates. Make sure you all stand together and never let Shang Tsung dissuade any of you. Otherwise, he shall be underhanded, disguising himself as one of you. My wolf Kiba should do the job on detecting any fake souls. I may have him in me, however I believe his sense of smell is more superior than mine. Everyone agreed. They then approached beneath the hovering neon portal before they were taken off their feet as they were blinded by an intense illumination. Together, the octet of warriors descended gradually onto the basalt soil, which seemed as black as the foreign clear atmosphere. Unlike their last location, the skies of the Outworld proper were twice as bleak, with little to no light onto the landscape covered by thick canopies. Only the moon and stars gave the gang a little guidance. We are back in the sorcerer's own diabolical territory. Lau wasn't so impressed. He could tell by the chill in the air, or perhaps from his nervousness, they stepped into the enemy's home turf once more. Even the male elemental ninjas shared the same sensation. So, we are finally in Outworld again, always having the sudden uneasy change in scenery. Doesn't really look all that different. Indeed, I can sense immense evil present. We must stay on our guard. He let out Kiba, since he was more steadfast than the comrades, while he and his tracker led straight away, with Kung Lao close behind them. We should also look for Jax and Cyrax. They're parts of the Outer World Investigation Agency, and I lost radio contact with them. Must have something to do with that bastard with the artificial heart. She nodded in confirmation, beginning to believe in Raiden's words, and having Su Hao working for the demonic duo. Through their keen sight, Nightwolf and Kung Lao spotted an opaque figure move. The Indian halted the team, raising a hand and ordering them to wait. They and Aiko, who took her mutual's leads, followed the trail, and the rest soon caught up, only to have Sonya stub on something, nearly losing her footing. She was caught by the former celebrity, but the Special Forces agent observed something coarse and metallic. It took one hand to brush off the loose dirt, and it turned out to be a part of Cyrax. This must be a part of Cyrax. Continued to look at it, and it belonged to an arm console of sorts. Catching Sonya's wonderment, Sub-Zero was in deep thought. If I can remember the cold-blooded Lin Kuei's cybernetic units, they wouldn't be necessarily injured if one of the components had been severed, unless they would be in a state of shock. However, since Cyrax happens to be human, he might still be active. With the damage of his human self, it may be sustainable. We can't count on that. We should catch up to the others, Johnny stated in impatience, especially if one should be separated from the team with the possibility that Shang Tsung could be in their midst. Can you blame this guy? Gleam caught Kung Lao's eye. He was immediately on the chase. Nightwolf pleaded to wait, but the Shaolin kept on the hot pursuit. The descent from the few hills nearly made them lose balance. Trotted toward the rough terrain. He teleported, wound up a few feet away. The opaque man looked up and saw a shiny hat nearly slice him into ribbons. He immediately raised his hands in front of his assailant. Hey! Whoa! What the hell are you doing, Kung Lao? I'm on your side. How do I know you're on our side? He then backpedaled as he saw the glimmering arms. Jax? It's about time before you would wring my neck. Suddenly the two men heard some distant barks belonging to a dog, about to claim his prey. Jax threatened he'd punch his tail up his ass, till Kung Lao stated it can just be Kiba. Nightwolf sent the dog here? Sure enough, he emerged from the shadows. Kiba, sniff him, Lao commanded. He volunteered, and Jax was licked. He just sat there and let out a growl as Jax went over to pet him. He suddenly turned, when he heard his master who ran through the thick bush. He let out a happy bark, knowing Jax's soul was clean. Sonya soon followed, and despite his slippery body covered with sweat, she was certainly happy to see him, even Johnny. "It's great to see you too, Jax. Where have you been, anyway?" The muscular man said he was alone, looking for a way out of Outworld. He had been stranded for the last few days and lost contact with the Special Forces. He believed the Red Dragon must have destroyed the OIA base after that. "Yeah, I kind of figured the same since I lost contact with you in headquarters, including Cyrax." Said he was missing the yellow robot, until his vision amongst the darkness spotted a golden glimmer. He theorized the cyborg was also wandering aimlessly till some huge figure that looked like a bat dropped and perhaps swooped him away. "Congratulations on getting engaged, by the way. I hope you and Vera would plan to have Jackie and avoid your tragic fate." Jax thanked her, and the team broke the news of Lu's unfortunate incident. "Quan Chi and Shang Tsung returned from the dead? How in the fuck they escaped from the Nether Realm?" Nightwolf interrupted. "Raiden observed all this happening with his status as an elder god. He trusted us to put a stop to the vile demons." "If I'm correct, they should definitely have a base of operations somewhere in Outworld." Damn. I ran out of time, guys, so bear with me. "We must keep moving. We need to find some better cover. It's not safe within this ominous forest." Everyone nodded and pressed on, but Lao halted. He took out the dragon amulet and spoke to it. "Liu Kang, I think this is part of the living forest. I'm afraid you're right. But it seems more tranquil than usual. Hardly any trees using their limbs to rip us asunder, nor any henchmen. Katana once said that she and the Edenians aided the Saurians in redeeming the place. Many perished trying upon the residue of Shang Tsung's corruption. The monk wished he was here. Listen. I hear nothing, nor I. No crickets, nor roars from any of the trees, nor any of the whipping roots and branches. It all goes so quiet. Too quiet. Aiko spun behind herself as she heard a sudden ruffle. She couldn't tell if it was from the ground nor the dark forest itself. Some chills ran through her, thinking that someone might be tracking her and the combatants. Kung Lao stepped closer to her as he noticed the cardiokinetic's hesitation. What is it? Oh, Kung Lao. I thought someone might be tracking us. I heard a ruffle here. Lao observed the spot, yet nothing caught their attention, nor was there any disturbance. Laid a hand on her clammy arm. His touch provided a little warmth and comfort. Come, we must head to the others and get out of these creepy woods. Little did the duo know that a pair of bright turquoise irises peeked out of the shadows. They soon did just that when the group headed through a clearing. It turned out to be atop a steep hill with a looming palace in the distance. That's Edenia! Some of the heroes got a sense of deja vu since the Edenian revolution from Shinnok and Quan Chi. Great! We should gather allies from the Edenian royals and their armies. Right. We cannot tread in blindly without backup. Good call. Someone needs to break the troubling news to them. More importantly, to Katana. I can talk to her, Sub-Zero. I'm a close ally to Katana. Man, you really got some balls, Kung Lao. Somebody's gotta be ballsy enough to report the grave tragedy. Aiko and I will take the stand. She became giddy at his words. She'd be ecstatic to see the proud Edenian heir again after so long. Everyone agreed to the leader's terms after all. He was the next best combatant aside from Liu Kang, as well as the most logical next to the Matoken. And I always felt that same way about him and Shaolin monks. Inside the throne of the palace, Asgarth announced from the open perch that the Earthrealmers arrived at the majestic gates. The womanly trio, Sindel, Katana, and Jade, were thrilled, as was Shiva, who seemed slightly excited. The queen nodded her assent. "The Earthrealmers have arrived? Excellent!" She spotted her advisor's sterner demeanor. "It's most likely they wanted to visit here because of some incident. Tell the guards to allow them entry." The eagle humanoid obliged, and the Edenians withdrew their spears as the gate squeaked a tad open. For a millisecond, Kung Lao wondered if the Shokan Prince Goro was also operating here. Good question. The guys arrived and they made some reunions with the monarchs. After that, Katana and Sindel pondered why Liu Kang wasn't with them, since he was Earthrealm's former champion and all. "So, what news have you brought to us, Earthrealmers?" Shiva asked as her authoritative and more serious persona. Maybe we should..." "Good idea." Everyone faced the heroes, curious as to why they're breaking away so soon. Nightwolf broke the silence. "Let's just leave business to the pros." Sindel nodded with a coy expression. They left both Kung Lao and Aiko with the Edenians. He took off his hat, stepped forward, and bowed low as a greeting to the queen. Aiko followed. "Sir Kung Lao? Lady Aiko? What business have you brought to us, Shaolin warrior?" He rose slowly. "Queen Sindel, Princess Katana, you would notice that Liu Kang is not with us. I am humbled to say that. He is still with us, though not physically. Earthrealm was attacked by the Deadly Alliance, consisting of Shang Tsung and Quan Chi. There were some murmurs throughout the throne room as the petty guards became uneasy. And what of Liu Kang, Kung Lao? Our hero is not entirely with us. Shang Tsung has slain him." "No! No! My soul has been spared, but it was only thanks to Lord Raiden who acted accordingly once I was killed by Shang Tsung." Katana's face became pale at the observation. "Liu Kang, your soul is trapped within that dragon ornament?" "Well, I wouldn't say trapped, Katana, but more like encased. As long as Shang doesn't steal my essence, I am safe, with Kung Lao as my retainer." I should have known that your Shaolin brother would be your keeper." We're here because the Deadly Alliance is planning on resurrecting the dragon Onaga and his army. Raiden watched all this happening. Oh, the gods! The Deadly Alliance must be stopped as soon as possible. What do you know of Onaga, Sindel? Since she has been the second oldest ruler next to Shao Kahn. Shao Kahn's not the only superior ruler of Outworld. Onaga dominated this realm even before his time. Her mind flashed back to several centuries. I actually got most of the information from the fourth snake aligned through time. I highly recommend it. This all happened even way before the great Kung Lao's time, as far back as 8,450 BC, according to your timetable. I'd heard legends of the accursed Dragon King, and before he became emperor. Khan was actually his advisor. He and Onaga had been closely knit when it came to conquering all the smaller realms. They used to be a powerful force, almost as much as Quan Chi and Shinnok. Massacres and chaos reigned supreme in their wake. They were both incredibly malevolent. Until one day, When Khan was finally envious working under the Dragon King, he made his insurrection imminent as he suddenly decided to war against him. A battle ensued between them as power-hungry and ferocious Khan was. He managed to poison the Dragon King himself and sent his generals out into a killing spree against the undead legions. In a short span of time, Khan emerged victorious and from this day forward became Outworld's prime emperor. The Elder Gods then established the Mortal Kombat tournament before he had the rights to invade Edenia. And I lost my beloved Jared and myself as well. I'm sorry. My pardons if I had opened up old wounds. If you and your men aren't willing to prevent this calamity, that's precisely what we must do. I will enlist Katana and Jade since they're the most willing and skilled. They had partaken in the war against Shinnok. They can be of some great worth to us. If Liu Kang were seen, the Edenian princess could have sworn he just smiled, as if reading her mind. I'd be honored to fight by your side again, Katana. I know you would, Liu Kang. What about our own army? That which we would conflict the undead? I shall volunteer the Shokan to do so. I'm certain they can't wait to rid of the preceding ruler's troops. If the Centaurs and Saurians are willing to join the cause too, then it's just as well. Excepting those bloodthirsty Tarkatans, we'll be marching in their territory now. It's more than likely they'll assist our enemies, as vicious and violent as they are. I sympathize with your plight involving the Shaolin Kung Lao. Alright then, my advisor Shiva will hold the fort. Katana and Jade will assist you and put an end to the Deadly Alliance's plots. Wait! What of Prince Goro? Everyone hesitated, but Sindel found her words. He hasn't frequented here as of late. Ever since that peace treaty in Quaitan, he has been regulating the Shao Kahn with centaurs. Thankfully, there hasn't been any incidences of bloodshed, but since he'd encounter with his former master, he'll most likely refuse, or even worse, side with him again. Aiko didn't like the sound of that as she groaned. Ugh. I see. The two of you must prepare for the fight ahead. We will rally up whoever is able to willing to aid us. May victory be ours. Edenia depends on it. And they did the motto. Edenia is an idyllic paradise when we are free from tyranny. Good luck, brave noble warriors. After a bow and a curtsy, Lao and Aiko followed. It's ridiculous that some crucial story elements can mostly be found within the combatants' profiles than anywhere else. I know F-Zero GX and Climax are like this, but at least the stories explain some elements just fine. It's not as divided. Deadly Alliance is a bigger disappointment on account of the glorified tutorials in Conquest and just doing the arcade ladders. I don't really count the crypt because it's mostly artworks, spoofy clips, the optional, less vital stuff. And it is, all crypts. And the plots themselves can be very confusing. Again, I recommend the MK Wiki and MK Temples vid on the matter. Maybe Tabmox99's subject concerning with Shang Tsung and Quan Chi. Speaking of story elements, it was kind of a good thing I had some ideas scrapped, otherwise I'd be lost while highlighting things, such as Jax being stranded, Kung Lao breaking the tragic news to Katana, Cyrax being missing, Sindel describing Onaga, etc. And besides, in every war there must be an enemy, right? An army? Lousy, bloodthirsty, aggressive Tarkatans, and Onaga's undead servants capturing people's souls. I feel so resentful on what the Deadly Alliance can do, especially when its earlier version, the Unholy Alliance, was made, and how each sorcerer is prone to tension, losing themselves in power and avarice. And that's true, especially with Shang Tsung. Very treacherous. Okay, I'm kind of rambling, but my point is I want to cover and solve as many aspects as I can, and having all those outlines help on resolving this confusing cluster mug. You know how Mortal Kombat is. Even the Celestial Portal was complicated, specifically when certain combatants have unknown enemies during its trial, according to the wiki. On the subject of that mysterious arena, Acid Bath and Portal, songs. Another chapter is finally done, but who did those glowing turquoise eyes belong to? Would Cyrax and Kenshi be found? Find out later. Until then, this is the Ekron Writer signing out. And I want to give a quick shout out to 80s Fan, because she did one hell of a job with the Mortal Kombat pictures, especially with Aiko. So far, she did the original cast. Her video was awesome, too. I love those how to draws. So, I highly recommend giving her a look. She's awesome. So see you guys later.